Hello, friends and neighbors. It's time for a little more cooking. Thanks for everybody that subscribed to my channel and left comments and likes. That's very much appreciated. So today I thought what we'd do is, it's not necessarily Cajun cooking. I do other cooking, but with the economy the way it is, a lot of us are trying to stretch our money, our food dollar. So one of the ways to do that is using ground meat, ground hamburger, beef. Just kind of a tip for you guys. I've started beef so expensive at the regular grocery stores that I started buying it directly from a ranch here close to where I am. I'm in Texas, so there's beef cattle ranches all around here. But you can also buy from some of them online. I go about every 8 weeks and buy about between 25 and 30 pounds, mostly steak. But they always throw in some hamburger too. Getting it from them, they're Black Angus cattle, so very high quality. That particular ranch does not do antibiotics or grain, so they're grass-fed, grass-finished. So there's no nasty stuff in the meat. It's very, very good quality stuff. And like this last shipment I got 22 steaks, various cuts, and 4 pounds, I believe, of hamburger meat. Yeah, again, all from that one ranch, and it averaged out to be like $7 a pound. So it's definitely cheaper than the grocery stores. A lot of the steaks I got, like the big 16-ounce bone-in strip steaks, cut about 1.5 inches thick, would have cost me almost $30 a piece in the grocery store. Like I said, I paid an average of $7 each for them. So that's just a tip. If you guys can find something like that in your neighborhood or in your area, or even find something online. I know a lot of the ranches are starting to sell direct to people online. So what we're going to do tonight is just hamburger steak, which is really just a big hamburger patty, but you cook it with onions and some seasoning. And at the end, after we brown it, we're going to cook the onions in the fat. We're going to put the hamburger steak back in the fat, and then we're going to put water in some, I have it over here, some powdered bouillon. This is actually like a powdered au jus. We're going to add to the liquid the water and stuff in there, and it'll make a nice au jus gravy. The whole thing probably would cost, if you were doing like, say, for 2 people, your total bill with the meat and everything would probably be around $8, so $4 a person for, a very hearty, decent meal. So without further ado, what we have here is half an onion. This is a fairly good size onion, so I'm only going to use half of it. I peeled it, cut it in half. I'm just going to take the knife and shave it down to fairly thin slices. When we get to that point over at the skillet, we'll separate the slices out. Be careful not to cut yourself when you get to this point. I've done it before. So that's enough. I'm only going to do one steak because it's just me for dinner tonight, so that's half an onion is plenty. That's really it for the vegetables. A lot of people will put either fresh or canned mushrooms in this. I have some. I don't really want them tonight, so I'm not going to put that in there, but you can always dump that in. At the end, I'll tell you where. So I'm going to step out for a minute and move everything over the island, and I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. So what I have here is the hamburger meat that I told you I get from the rancher. They actually vacuum pack it in 1/4 pound little pieces, so you can make hamburgers with it, hamburger patties. So I've just taken 2 of those, so that's a half a pound of hamburger meat. We're going to make a good size patty. And in the skillet here, I've just put a couple of tablespoons of just regular vegetable oil. You can use olive oil if you like. This is not a fancy dish, so I'll stick with the regular oil. We're going to season this, and you got to use your hands for this, so my hands are clean. We're going to season this with Well, I just said that, and then I gotta wash my hands. I'll be right back. Okay, moving on. We're gonna season this with some kosher salt, which is that kind of coarse, flaky salt. It's bigger flakes than like table salt, so you don't need quite as much of it. There's 2 little pinches ought to do. And then a little bit of garlic powder. Not a whole lot. Uh-oh, this isn't open. Sorry about that. New garlic powder. So a little bit of that. Not a whole lot. And this is kind of optional. You can or not use a little onion powder because it's going to have onions in the gravy. I like a little bit of onion powder flavor. So, and then fresh ground black pepper. A few turns of that. And you're just going to kind of mix it up with your hands a little bit. If this was going to be for a giant hamburger with a bun, then we'd make this into a hamburger patty, but since it's going to be a hamburger steak, we're going to make it kind of steak shape. So just kind of squish it out in a rectangle, or however you like, till it's about, I don't know, about a ½ inch thick is probably good. And if you want to add a little more seasoning onto the surface, you can. We'll put our heat under our skillet on like medium high, because all we're going to do is brown it, sear it a little bit first. Sorry, I keep moving. I keep having to wash my hands. So that's the first step. As soon as we get this oil hot, we'll throw it in there and start to sear it. So get it brown on both sides. You don't have to cook it all the way through, and then remove it back to a paper plate or whatever, and then we'll do the vegetables and go forward from that point. But this is something that is also done in Cajun families. A lot of times it's done with cube steak, and it's called Cajun steak, and the only difference is that that's tenderized round steak like they would use on chicken fried steak or country steak. And you would put a little bit of Cajun seasoning on it. But the process after that is the same, and that would be served with rice, with the gravy over the rice, and usually black-eyed peas or purple hull peas. Again, really inexpensive, substantial meal if you're trying to save some money, especially for a family. Here we're just going to do one, like I said, but you could literally do a pound of hamburger and make 4 of these steaks out of it. I'm eating mostly protein these days because of my diet, and I haven't really eaten much today, so that's going to be a ½ pound hamburger steak just for me tonight. And I have some rice. We're going to do the rice and gravy, but I'm probably not going to eat the rice, maybe just a little bit of it, even though I love rice. Okay, so that's gotten pretty much up to temp now. So we're going to take the big old steak. It's going to shrink too, by the way. And put it in here. Put a little bit more pepper on it. Maybe a little more salt. I didn't put a lot of salt on there. That's all to your taste, by the way. So if you don't like a lot of salt, or you don't like pepper, you don't like garlic powder, you put whatever you like into it. So basically season this as if it was a steak you were going to grill or broil. And this part here is strictly just to get a sear on it, so we can take it out and put the onions in there, and or mushrooms. If you're going to use mushrooms, you would put them in at the same time. to saute with the onion. Okay, we're back. This flipped it once already, so it's brown like this on the other side. That's what you want. Just kind of look like a hamburger or a steak. So we're going to take that off of there. Maybe a little bit crumbly. Like I said, it's not cooked all the way through, but it doesn't need to be because we're going to braise it in the onions and the juice here in a little bit. So what you're going to do right now is turn the heat down and add your onions in. Get your wood spatula and the steak, and kind of break them up into straws. And this is a preference thing too. I like to saute these without the meat in there until they're translucent. You can saute them until they start to brown, and they'll get caramelized, and they'll be real sweet. Again, a taste thing. Do it however you want to do it. But we're just using the oil and the drippings from that one steak in here. If you were making this for 4 people, like I said, you take a whole pound of beef and separate it into 4 equal parts, make it into a little bit smaller steaks, and use a little bit bigger skillet. And then I would use a whole onion instead of a half onion at that point. So I'm kind of halving this recipe as what I would normally do. But again, whatever pound of hamburger meat costs you at our store here, it's like 5 something, and then a half an onion, which is a few cents, and some seasonings and water. So you're talking split, let's say $7 to be on the high side between 4 people, and that's a pretty cheap meal. And then rice. You can either serve this over rice with the gravy, or a lot of people do mashed potatoes, which are also cheap to do. You could even use like egg noodles, boil them, drain them, put them on, like a bed of those on the plate, put your steak on there, and then cover it with the gravy that we'll be making here in just a second. So that's about the way I like the onions. They're translucent and soft. They're broken up. They're not getting crispy yet, so I don't want to fry them. I'm going to put the hamburger back in. And then we're going to put that's about 1.5 cups of water. So don't cover the steak completely, but about halfway up. And then we'll sprinkle a little bit of this magic powder here, the bouillon gravy. It's like an enhancer. You don't need a lot of that either, probably 1 to 2 tablespoons, depending on how big your steak's going to be. And then just take your spoon and kind of stir it around in there. It'll make a nice, rich, like a gravy that you would have off of a roast beef type gravy. Alright, that's stirred in enough. So now what we're going to do is put a lid on this so we don't make a mess. We're going to turn this down to 1, so pretty low. And it's going to boil real easy with the lid on it. And which it is already starting to roll and boil, I'm going to actually put it down on low. Because what you want it to do is just simmer, not like roll and boil with the lid on it. And we'll let it cook like that I usually leave it for about 30 to 45 minutes. Let the hamburger steak get cooked completely through, and let the gravy reduce a little bit. And then we'll come back and plate everything up, see what it looks like. Okay, we're back. It's been about 45 minutes. I've just let it simmer. We'll pull the lid off of it. And that's what it looks like in the pan. As you can see here, I've got a little rice already on the plate. So just take a spatula. You see it shrunk up quite a bit too. So put the steak on the plate. We'll take a ladle and get some gravy. The gravy's reduced down and strengthened up too, so that's what you get. And then I usually eat this with, you can either like grill some vegetables or saute some vegetables with it, or just a green salad, and then you got a meal. Like I said, if you did a pound of hamburger with a whole onion and a little bit more spices, you could feed 4 people for about $7 on it. So we'll get a little bit of the steak here, and a little rice, some gravy. That's what the bite looks like. Very good. So that's how you do it. Again, thank everybody for looking at my other videos, liking and subscribing. I really appreciate that. I'll go ahead and put, just like I did in the last one, the recipe for this. I'll actually probably do the recipe for 4, because usually you'd be cooking for more than one person, in the description on the video when I release it. Thanks. See you guys the next time.